I just want to see that we're getting online. Give me a second while we watch. And it seems as if we're online. Good. That means I can press a button there and turn a knob, and now we are gonna be going. So this is one of my babies. It's a Luxman C-120A stereo preamp dating from the early 80s. I love this thing. I owned the power amplifier for this thing for many years before finding this particular model, or rather this particular unit, which I think was sold together with my particular power amplifier. So I've got the original set as it left the store, which is quite amazing. However, this thing doesn't work right. When I got it, it was in absolutely horrible shape. It was distorting like crazy, and I just fixed it. It's pretty much completely restored and upgraded inside. I was going to make a video on it, but I never did. And YouTube is completely broken for me right now. I hope it's not broken for you. Anyway, right now it does work quite well. All the performance issues are solved. However, it has one remaining issue, and that is an odd one. And to understand that, you need to get a bit of a look. God, my broken stream thing is really bad. Fucking hell. Is the stream broken? The stream seems to be not broken. Okay, moving on. So this thing has seen a few upgrades in order to make it perform better, because sadly out of a factory it wasn't a very good performing amplifier. It was considerably inferior to the power amplifier, which actually performs very well. However, it was reasonably easily resolved, and we can have a bit of a look at the changes I've made to this thing. So here we have a shielding plate for the tone amplifier, which improved the noise floor quite a bit. We have all new capacitors, a bunch of new resistors and stuff in it, and we have this shielded signal cable. Now, in the original design, this wire is just a plastic see-through flat ribbon cable, which was picking up a lot of noise from the transformer over there and the whole power supply section, because you basically have 50 Hz pretty much all around this area here, and this is just a big antenna. So I wrapped it in aluminium tape, which resolved the hum issue. However, now we have a different issue, which is this. Let's see if we can crank it up so that you can hear it. If I touch the wire, something's not right. You would expect there to be humming and noise when you're poking around in this thing. If I move my hand all over, I can hear a faint buzz coming from the speakers, but this wire in particular, just mechanically moving it around causes huge issues, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. I think it might have something to do with this aluminium strip not receiving proper grounding, even though I have done the proper procedure in my book for grounding it, which is to just take some tweezers and you stab it a whole bunch of times, and you stab it to something that's connected to ground, in this case one of the switches in here. But I think that's just not adequate for this. It just needs a better connection. So I have a plan for solving that, and that is that we're going to take a piece of wire and we're going to solder the wire to some ground somewhere probably in this area, since these switches are mechanically mounted to the grounded chassis, or in this area where we can connect it to signal ground. We'll have to see which works better. I think this is going to be the good end. And we can kind of preview how this plan is going to work by taking a crocodile clip and grounding it onto our switch there. And now we can't replicate the horrible crackling issue no matter how much I poke this around. So I'm quite sure we have arrived at a reasonable explanation for the behavior. So let's just get ourselves some wire. There's a lot of talk in the chat about everything being broken, and refreshing seems to fix it. Right, so I'm going to fetch a wire. Any old thing will do. And turn the amplifier off. So here is a thin shielding strap from some device, rather it's from a cable. And my plan is, since this is aluminium and we can't solder onto it, I'm going to run this along the length, tape it down with more aluminium tape, stab it to make sure it's connected, and solder one end to this switch here, which is grounded. So let's just get to work. I really hope this stream isn't completely broken for everyone. That would be annoying. Right, so we're probably going to want to start by soldering the wire in place. Now I wonder if we have ground actually coming from the cable there. That would be a good starting point. But we don't seem to really have any specific ground coming from the wire at all. Nothing that's obviously jumping out at me. So we're gonna just solder it onto the solder pad of this switch, which is grounded to the case by a couple of rather sturdy screws, and I think that's going to be fine. If not, we can just redo it. So let's also get out the aluminium tape and get to work. Christian Ivarsson asks, any hembränt tonight? No. I had a very wild party arguing with people on the internet last night. I am not in a state where hembränt is something that would be desirable. Why does everyone think I'm an alcoholic just because I'm Finnish? That is such a rude stereotype, you guys. So, yeah, the switch is grounded in a bunch of places, but we're going to solder onto, and we can just solder onto the switch itself right at the corner there. It seems to be made out of a solderable material, so let's try and scrape some metal free there and just blob some solder on it. I think that's going to be good. Like so. Let's see if this is going to take, or if we need to. Oh, I do not want to have the test amplifier up and running while I solder on it, because that's... you guys couldn't hear it, but when I touched the soldering iron to the metal, there was a hum coming through my test speakers, and I have experience with that, where you often run into very loud exploding noises and broken speakers if you solder onto something that's connected to your test area. because you can often have a potential difference between the gear you're working on and your soldering iron, and depending on what's going on, that could be a significant voltage which just goes straight out into your test speakers and explodes them. Tweeters do not like getting aggressively mangled by really sharp transients. They tend to just mechanically break. So, tin the end of the wire. Let's be proper and get some flux on the switch there. I haven't used this in such a long time. We probably want to wipe the old stuff off of that. There we go, get some fresh flux. Just a little bit, since we're not adding any extra solder. And on it goes. Yes, this relay is turned off. There we go. That's our wire soldered onto the switch. So now comes the funny part of trying to actually connect this wire reasonably to this tape, which is going to be a bit interesting, I do think. So, aluminium does that thing where it oxidizes pretty much instantly, and I'm not sure how good our stabbing tactic is going to work. With a wire without damaging the internal cable and that, so I'm going to really wipe this down with some alcohol to get it as clean as possible before we start applying the tape that's going to hold the wire in place. We're basically just counting on some scraping to happen between the cable and the shielding metal, or the grounding wire and the shielding metal, to allow for an electrical connection. It's not going to be a good connection, it's basically just going to be squeezed together, and we are hoping that it's going to last. It's not a very good way of doing it. I'd rather have something crimped onto this, but you really can't do that since there's a sensitive wire inside. So I'm just going to take a couple of little bits of this stuff, cut it up, and primarily attach the wire just so we have it kind of mounted-ish where we want it, so we don't have to wrestle a large piece of floppy wire and a large piece of this really rather unmanageable aluminium tape at the same time. So if you're just joining us, we are currently repairing this Luxman C-120A preamplifier, or not really repairing but rather modifying this Luxman C-120A amplifier, preamplifier, to just remedy an issue where it would pop randomly in the speakers because the grounding on this metal shielded wire isn't quite connected very well to ground. The metal shielding is not factory, but it's something I've added to reduce the noise floor of the amplifier. And we're basically just fixing my modification, so it's not Luxman's fault that it's making horrible banging noises in the speakers at random. It's my fault completely. So we do have quite a lot of this wire. We can basically just zigzag it across a bit to give it a bit more surface area to attach to. I think that's going to be good. Someone in the chat says shaft extensions. I haven't seen those in a good while. And yes, indeed, this is a device dating from 1983, so it's not exactly new. Another grounding issue I've actually repaired on this thing, which you can see here, is we have a grounding spring connecting to the button extension for the tone defeat button, because this button extension is not connected to anything, and it becomes a big antenna picking up 50 Hz from outside the case and transmitting it in here. And it took me forever to figure out that this was causing this thing to hum. And all of these probably do that from factory. It's not something I've seen fixed in any of the schematics. So yeah, if you have a C-120A and it hums, just add a ground spring to this. It's going to make your life a lot better. It also makes it so that when you touch the tone bypass switch, it doesn't go bzzz anymore. Because from the factory, just by touching this, you get a humming out of the speakers. And if you have the gain on your power amplifier turned up reasonably high, as you usually would, it's really annoying. Not that I think there's any C-120A owners watching, since this is such a uncommon device. So let's just zigzag this across, buying ourselves as much surface area as possible. This aluminium tape is not the easiest material to work with. It's very finicky. But once you get it on, it's very good for many different things. It isn't really very conductive, since it's aluminium and it forms an oxide layer. But if you poke holes through it, you can make it connect to stuff pretty well with a bit of effort. Obviously can't run a lot of current through those connections, but you can ground stuff, as I have failed to do here, since we're adding an extra grounding. Well, why? There's a mosquito in here. For some reason, I have flies and mosquitoes in this house all year round. I have no idea where they come from. I can end up replicating the fly at some point. Someone asks, the real question is the glue on the aluminium tape conductive? And the answer is no, but it's very thin, so you can poke through it very easily. I don't think it's conductive anyway. We can test that actually. I've just always kind of assumed it's not conductive. This tape isn't marketed as any kind of electronics tape. You use this when you're building saunas as a heat shield. I suppose it could be a rather region-specific thing actually, because you don't usually construct a lot of saunas all around the world. When you build a sauna, you have a metal shield in the wall to prevent a huge thermal differential in your wood walls, which would cause some mold and stuff. So you have a metal barrier, and where your metal sheets meet, you tape them together with this aluminium tape. Someone asks, what sort of an engineer ships an amp that hums and cracks when you touch it? Well, clearly Luxman. This thing is relatively well engineered, otherwise I'm surprised it would have that bug. It was like generally the power amplifier that goes with this, the Luxman C-120A, is a marvel of engineering. It's a very well performing amplifier. It's got good, pretty much everything, good noise floor, good distortion numbers, good power output, good everything. But this thing is really noisy out of a factory, and yeah, it hums when you touch it. Well, one specific button. Alan Slater asks, are you still in the basement workshop? Yes, I am. I am in the middle of renovating the middle floor of this house. I'm hoping to be able to move out of this horrible place rather soon, but I need to get flooring, I need to paint the walls. I like just a couple of days ago, I got almost done moving out all the junk and garbage my parents left behind. Anyway, I want to see if this glue is conductive. I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to be conductive at all. But won't probe that. Nope, not conductive. So you need to stab stuff so you get a connection. Someone asks, how's rebuild video? When I'm dying for it. In time, once I actually get that far, I'm probably going to try and film some of it. But thus far, as far as the house is concerned, I've literally just been cleaning out old garbage. Because when my parents moved in here, they bought it from an old lady. They didn't bother cleaning out all her old shit out, so it's full of the previous inhabitants' old shit, which had gathered up since the house was new. And then there's about 15 years of my parents' old shit, and yeah, they had too many square meters and not enough important stuff to put in it, so they just kind of left things lying around, lots of garbage, trash, useless things that I need to sort up and throw away, which just takes a huge amount of time to do, and it's also really expensive to get rid of. Trash, which is annoying, but we're getting there. I'm thinking about, I don't know, I think I'm going to get new floor for the middle floor in like 2 or 3 weeks, once I have time to go to Sweden to get that done. And then I'm going to have to put that in, which is going to take forever because I'm not a good carpenter. And after that, paint the walls, and then I think we're pretty much ready to start building a new workshop upstairs, which is going to be very, very enjoyable. So, I recall making a video on this channel saying I was going to be back in a new workshop like in August. That plan obviously failed. Things have gone very slow. I've been incredibly busy, sadly. That's why I've almost haven't made any content of a YouTube channel either, which bothers me because I want to be going up in production, not down. But once we get into the new workshop, I'm going to have such a much nicer space where I can actually fit a camera above my head without banging my head into it, because the ceiling's so low that it's going to be pretty good. Alright, that's going to be the last piece of tape for pre-mounting the wire. Someone says you still haven't edited all footage from your last trip and given us a video. Sad face. I know. That's my little That's my little happy place. That's what I do when I'm just down and about. I have quite a few of the episodes edited already in a very bloggy, basic travel vlog style, but they're getting slowly done. They're getting slowly done, and I'm going to publish them at some point when I have all of them edited. So let's see if we have any kind of connection between our wire and the aluminium. That looks pretty good. I'm just touching the probes rather lightly, and that seems to be a good connection. If I wiggle that around, it doesn't really change anything, so I think this is going to turn out pretty good. So now we're just going to have to put tape all over this so it actually stays put. Alan Slater says, it doesn't seem that long since you refurbished the basement workshop with the new benches, etc. And that is entirely true. But the story's gone like this. When I was redoing the basement workshop, I didn't know that my parents were going to move out. We hadn't planned any of that. So I did this pretty well, assuming I'd just be stuck here for another couple of years. But then, like 1 month after I did all the new benches and made everything nice, the news came like, oh yeah, we're getting a new house, you can have this one. So then I was just, well, that's good. I'm not going to bother taking care of a basement workshop because I hate it and I don't want to use it, so I'm going to focus on making the new one. So I expected everything to go quicker than it has, and I'm paying for that by just having this workshop basically be a horrible abomination for the time being. It's completely disregarded and in very bad nick because I've just expected to move many months ago, but everything's taken longer than it should. So it's a failure on my part. That's not a very helpful mentality to just go, oh yeah, I'm leaving here anyway, so sod it. But I am but a human. We all make mistakes. And now I think I'm about to make a mistake because this tape, is difficult to work with. We need to shape it onto the wire. To get the old tape on, I desoldered the wire and, or rather the cable, and did it that way. Let's get the camera a bit to the side so I don't have my head in the way. But we can do it this way, I think. I don't know. Oh god, this has gone wrong. Right, we'll just kind of do it like this and cut off any horrible excess. This is not going on straight at all. Oh, this has gone so wrong. Oh no, it's going on. No, it's actually going on quite straight. Yeah. Yeah, this could have gone a lot worse. Oh wow. This could have gone so much worse. Wow, that is really good. That is amazing, actually. How we managed to get that on there. Wow. You can't see it, but it's following the edge of a cable perfectly. I am so happy with that. I am so happy with that. Amazing. So we'll just kind of fold this over the edge. Make sure the glue attaches well everywhere. Vector147 says, looks like a veiny shaft. Well, I mean, it does. It really does. Christ. Time to get demonetized. Someone in the chat said, referring to all the trash I have to get rid of, bonfires are cheap. That's true, but a lot of the stuff that's lying around is textiles and plastic. And if you've ever made a bonfire full of textiles and plastic, you're not going to make another bonfire full of textiles or plastic, because it's a bad day, and you will not get rid of the smell. That smell will be with you for a week. So I'm just massaging my veiny shaft to make sure that it's properly adhered to the tape, because it's very important to cover your veiny shaft up when you're passing sensitive data through it. This really has turned out quite well thus far. If we actually manage to get it working right, I don't know. I have it kind of... I think we can get rid of the overlap going down here, because you can't quite see it, but there's a bunch of tape going down here and trying to ground on a bottom switch. So, since that's obviously not worked, I'm just going to cut that out, because it's going to cause more issues than it solves, since it's just causing an intermittent ground connection. And we don't want to have an intermittent ground connection. So I'll get out the carpet knife. And very carefully cut the tip of our veiny shaft off. Some people cut the tip of their veiny shafts off for cosmetic reasons, but we're doing it out of pure practicality. Because if we don't, a bloody mosquito, piss off, piss off. Because if we don't, we're going to have big problems down the line. And no one wants problems with their veiny shafts. Rated R for ridiculous. Yes. There's a little bit of a... Ow. That's... I'm not going to miss hitting my head on the camera every single time. So there's a bit stuck down here that I just want to get rid of. There we go. That's all the unnecessary metal film out of the way. So now to connect everything together, I'm going to use the tip of my tweezers and just stab a bit everywhere. I'm just poking little tiny holes through the oxide and the glue, and that makes a pretty decent connection. It looks horrible. Generally you don't want your veiny shaft to be all prickled, but sometimes you just can't help it. Pokey, pokey, poke. So what this is doing is providing a connection between the top and bottom layer of aluminium foil. And we want that since we want all the lower metal to be grinded, not just the top layer. There's actually foil on the underside of this as well, but I obviously can't easily show that to you. It doesn't take a lot to poke holes in this, I'm just hitting it very lightly with my tweezers, because this literally is aluminium foil. I probably want a couple of decent pokes on the actual wire to make sure we're getting a good connection of that as well. So I'm just poking holes all over. And once we're done, we should hopefully not have the horrible noise when we touch the shielding metal on this wire. If we still have that noise, then I'm going to be a bit sad, because that means this has been a huge waste of time and we've followed a red herring. Okay, I think we're ready for a test. So let's just power this on and see what happens. Didn't catch fire. Tick. So let's turn up a volume on a test amp. And it is working. If I turn it to phono, you can hear that. So let's poke and listen to that. We're getting a very faint 50 Hz hum coming through when I move my hand around, but that could be because this is very sensitive. But just if I do this, the sound changes. You can't quite hear it. But the big issue was it was going bang, pop, crackle, pop when I did this before, and it isn't anymore. So we've solved the issue, most of it anyway. I think the symptoms this thing has had is when I turn it on, it's sometimes had a hissing, crackling, popping noise, like what you heard when I was poking the wire, but also a more vague, a kind of sizzling noise where it would just go stick, 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 to make funny noises. And I think that might be because this wire was lying rather close, it presses very slightly against the bottom of the case, and that's of course going to not connect very well, since we have the oxidized aluminium on one side and the oxidized metal on the other. And I think if we put the case on now, it's not gonna snap, crackle or pop a lot. It's probably gonna go pop when I poke it to the metal. Yeah, if we do that, it makes a slight popping noise because there's a potential difference between them, but we shouldn't be able to, like, no manipulation of this case should cause any popping or crackling. That seems pretty good. So I think, or rather, I do think this has solved the issue. I really hope it has, because the amount of time I've spent improving this amplifier is rather ridiculous. Let's dismount this camera and give you guys a bit of a better look at all the stuff that's happened, since I'll probably not get around to making a proper video on this thing for quite a while still. No, don't record video. Alright, so there we go, manual exposure, a bit more light please. So for starters, in this amplifier I have replaced the line wires for the volume potentiometer with some double shielded ones, because this was picking up noise as well. The original wires, I think they were running in this loom here, going like so, on the underside there to the volume potentiometer, and there's a couple of different grains in this thing, and there's a bit of 50 Hz hum between them, and the original wires were the same as these grey ones. They are shielded, but just very basic shielded audio wires. They were picking up just a little bit of hum and noise. And by a lot of experimentation I figured out that routing this wire all the way around here provides the best performance gain. It was a quantifiable difference. It's about over a dB, 1 to 2 dB of 50 Hz hum is deleted by routing this wire all the way around there instead of just going straight to the volume potentiometer. This thing is just so ridiculously sensitive to this stuff. Moving on, we obviously have the metal wire we've been working on. This was also picking up over a dB of 50 Hz hum. And if you just joined, down there is a ground connector for the button extension for the tone bypass, because this picks up 50 Hz hum and static when you touch it. Otherwise it also picks up some internal hum and just kind of gets it inside the switch, causing issues. I've made some modification to this power supply circuit. This is the muting circuit for a relay, but I don't quite remember what it was. There was some area there which had more 50 Hz hum, 50 Hz going on than I wanted, and it was rather close to this relay, so I think I made a cap a bit bigger or something to just smooth it out, make it a bit less susceptible. What more? Oh yeah, we have additional, my harness is not with me on this. We have additional shielding here between the power supply circuit and the tone control PCB, because this PCB, again, like everything else in this amplifier, is very, very sensitive to picking up airborne hum. So I put this in there. It's grounded to the front of the chassis. This also deleted well over a dB of 50 Hz hum. So all these changes combined were like 5 or 6 dB down in 50 Hz hum, because this thing was really hummy. It was very annoyingly hummy. You could clearly hear it even with the amplifier on medium gain. And this wire, oh yeah, that's the change I made to the circuit over there. This is the power LED lead. Originally this was running on either half or full wave rectified AC with no filtering at all. So I've added a capacitor somewhere over there to filter this LED, because the 50 Hz going to the LED was actually carrying over to the tone control PCB assembly and causing more hum. And I think that, oh no, that doesn't even sum up all the changes, because on the underside, I'm going to turn off the power for it because else I'm going to get a shock. That's 230 volts right there. On the underside, I have added something out of exposure. I have added snubbers on the rectifiers, because we had some rectifier noise that was higher frequency but modulated at 50 Hz. That went away. I didn't quite measure it. It just went by ear. And originally there were some rather thin grinding leads here, which I replaced with thick installation wires. The small ones didn't make much of a difference, but the long one actually made a difference, because it goes down somewhere in that area, and for some reason they had rebuilt this thing to cut out, separate the grounds between I think the flat amp around here and all this stuff. And that just didn't work at all. It just sounded horrible. So I reconnected the ground as it actually says in the schematic. They just cut a trace there. I have no idea why. It didn't work well. This thing sounded like ass with that ground cut. But yeah, I think that pretty much sums up all the changes I've done to this Luxman C-120A to make it perform reasonably well. It still isn't very high performance, even something like my test amplifier there, some cheap Yamaha, will perform a lot better than this thing. But the story behind this thing is so good that I'm willing to give it my love, because I've also given a lot of my love to the power amplifier that belongs to it, my beloved M120A, the amp which got me into vintage audio for the first time so many years ago. I think I got that in like 2007 or 2008, so 10 years ago. I got the power amplifier that originally shipped as a kit with this particular one. And the power amplifier, the M120A, was thrown away. It broke and the owner threw it away. And another person found it in the trash with a huge dent on the corner and saved it. He put it in a storage unit and I got my hands on it after it had been lying there for many years. And just last year, I got my hands on this. And the way I got my hands on this was, I was at work and an old guy walks in with this, says, "Yeah, it's broken. Can you fix it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give you a bunch of money for this, and I'll give you a replacement. I just want this thing because it belongs to my amp." And much to my surprise, the previous owner of this thing was a complete bro, and he agreed. I supplied him with a Yamaha AX590, which is a more modern, excellent power integrated amplifier. It's far better than this thing could ever hope to be. And got that set up and working for him. I gave him like some money in between as well. And now this thing lives again. And now I'm going to just put it back together and get it back up into the bedroom where it belongs. And I think with that we are done. So thank you for watching, and hopefully we're going to be seeing some more streams and above all more proper videos once I get so far as to actually move to the new workshop, which is probably going to be like in the current rate is going to be like halfway into 2019, but we'll see. We're not in a hurry. Cheerio. Enjoy yourselves.